Greetings, friends and followers. This is Nurses Talking. I am Del Barzi. As always, if you like what you see and hear, subscribe. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. Here on Nurses Talking, we speak to nurses anywhere in the world and at any stage in their nursing journey. Today, I'm very pleased to welcome Shelby Jones out of Florida, USA. Shelby is a registered nurse with over 16 years experience. She's a freelance and health and wellness writer. She's a mother of twins. She's an entrepreneur and she's a founder of the ICU Nurse Writes. So welcome, Shelby.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Firstly, what brought you to nursing?
Well, when I hear a lot of people answer this question, they say, my mother was a nurse or my aunt was a nurse or they knew somebody. No one in my family is a nurse or is really in the medical field at all. And I just liked science, and I actually wanted to be a veterinarian when I was a little girl. And I decided I didn't want patients that bite. Usually our patients don't bite when they're humans. And then I kind of thought about maybe being an OBGYN or something like that, but I didn't want to commit to a physician's schedule. And as I learned a little bit more about the medical field, I just found that nursing was a really good fit for me. So right out of high school, I went into nursing school, and the rest is history.
Okay, so you were kind of laser focused.
Yeah.
But then, so was it what you expected?
No.
Hmm?
I think that a lot of people that go into nursing, they want to take care of people. Um, they want to be caregivers. And I think many of us are very good caregivers. But there's so much more to it. I didn't realize it was more than, just following orders and caring for people. It's more than that. It's understanding the pathophysiology of diseases and medications and intercepting drug errors and things like that. And I fell into ICU. That was my first job, as after I graduated, and that was really not anything I had ever experienced. I had never really had anyone close to me pass away, and so being kind of confronted with that was really a big shift for me, and I learned a lot about life working there.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
not unexpected, but and that's most of my bedside experience was in ICU. I did a lot of other things too, like home health and pre-op, post-op recovery, things like that. But then I kind of fell into academia too, and that's a whole different part of nursing that I never thought I would go into, but it's really a natural fit for nurses to be
Yeah.
educators. So
Yeah, because that's a big part of what we do. That's a
yes,
big part of what we do.
exactly.
So, a couple of things. First of all, you mentioned that one of the things you did was home health.
Yes.
And when people say home health, my antenna kind of goes up just because home health and I have this relationship where we say you go this way, I go that. So I
Yeah.
have true admiration for people who do home health. How did you find it?
Well, okay. So I had worked in ICU for about 10 years, and I had all four of my daughters while I was working there. And so when I first was in ICU, I was like a newlywed and, had lots of time and energy to spend on my self-care. And then I was a mother, and I was like, whoa, this is a lot. So it was a lot at work and it was a lot at home.
Yeah.
So I started looking for other things. Um, and I started working in an outpatient surgical center in the recovery area. And I worked with a nurse that also did home health. And I said, oh, this sounds really interesting. You get to drive around, you get to meet people. And she told me about how she builds, rapport with these patients, and she sees them week after week many times. And so I asked her, could I come shadow you? And so I went on a couple visits with her, and she drew blood in their home, right in their home, and then drove it to the hospital and dropped it off. And it just really was a big shift from what I was used to in ICU, where patients are very critical and many
Yeah.
times passing away. And then, you go see people in the home setting and you kind of understand why they end up in the hospital a lot of times, with all the healthcare inequities. And you just see, what people, their struggles right
Yeah.
in their home. And it was really eye-opening to me.
Yeah. 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 Awesome. 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 What, if anything, do you think you'd like to see? What aspects of nursing life you think you'd like to see change?
I think probably the biggest one would be the ratios. Having set nurse ratios, because I feel that the workload for bedside nurses right now is so heavy. We just can't do the job that we need to do. We can't care for people emotionally and mentally. We're barely trying to keep them alive a lot of times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Running from room to room and putting out fires, and we're not really caring for people anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so yeah, instead of blaming people and saying, oh, you have poor time management, or, why are you staying late charting? We really need to look at why are these nurses leaving the bedside? Why are these nurses not able to do their daily task? And it's the ratios are too high.
Yeah. 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 And now we're just uh completing tasks,
Yes.
and that's just about it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So you became a writer.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. A writer and an entrepreneur. So what did you always write?
I've always enjoyed kind of creative writing. I took a really great class in college, and the teacher was very good about really growing us as a writer. And I really enjoyed that. And I think, in my personal time, I spend a lot of time, doing thoughtful posts on social media and things like that about things that I feel passionate about, kind of bringing awareness to different things out in the world. And I learned about nurse writing recently. Last year, I was kind of feeling a little bit of, I don't know, just overwhelming. I'm not really able to care for myself in the way that I want to. I'm not able to care for my family in the way that I want to because of my work obligations in academia. So I was really looking again, kind of searching for a shift in nursing, for something else. And so I fell into this nurse writing, and it's all the best, a lot of the best parts of nursing, right? We get to educate.
Yeah.
And now, instead of just educating one person or one student or a class of students, I can educate the world, really. And
Yes, you
there's so
can.
much misinformation out there, especially since COVID. And just to be a part of kind of a shift back to providing education that's real, that's factual.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it right there. That's it right. And sometimes because it's very, very hard for someone who does not really have any medical experience and who's searching for some information to differentiate between what's real, what's factual, and what's just flubber.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. So what better person to write blogs about medical things than a nurse?
And a nurse, exactly,
So,
exactly. So you're also you're an act you're you're an educator,
mhm.
right? And you're an adjunct professor. To,
Yeah, so I started as an adjunct about 7 years ago, and then I took a full-time clinical teaching position. And now, after I graduated with my master's a couple years ago, I took a classroom position. So I've been teaching in the lecture halls and teaching in the lab, and also still in clinical for the last 2.5 or so years. So yeah.
All right, so you've been a student, you have worked hands-on, you are now educating the next generation. What do you think you'd like to see added, taken away from, or anything, the way we educate nurses?
Oh, I really think we need to focus on mental health of not just our patients, because of course we have a mental health course, how to care for people with mental illness. But we really need to spend more time talking about how to care for ourselves, because burnout is a huge problem. It's a reason that many nurses leave the bedside within the first year of their career, and leave the profession completely.
Yeah.
And it's because we don't spend enough time teaching people how to care for themselves. I think that's a big part of it. I think there's a lot of things in the healthcare system that contribute to that, obviously, but I think that that is an overwhelming problem. I mean, my students are very, very anxious, very stressed. I mean, nursing school is stressful, but I feel like it's worse now than it ever has been.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, teaching them how to, identify burnout, how to identify what feeds their soul, and how to have that work-life balance. Because I think in our career, it's almost like, if you push yourself too hard, you're seen as successful. Like, oh, wow, thanks for coming in. You did like 2 days of overtime.
15 trips.
Yes. And they're like, it's like praised.
Yeah.
We're pushing
Yeah.
too hard, and we need to not do that.
Yeah.
I think one of the best things that I learned in nursing school was I had an instructor tell us, it's not your job to fix the staffing problem in the hospital. So if they call you and they say, we need someone to come work, it's okay to say no.
Exactly, exactly. And you're so absolutely right, is that we not only the by definition, or maybe not definition, but just by itself, the job provides the opportunity for people to work 365 days a year.
Yes.
Sometimes we are taking advantage of that opportunity to the detriment of ourselves, and then our leaders, or people in charge who, I get it. You've got to try and fill slots.
Right.
Sometimes guilt you into coming in,
Yes.
and the whole thing becomes such a cycle,
Yeah.
such a cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we just talked about, you talked about people needing to care for themselves. What do you do to care for you?
That I'm on a path of self-discovery with that. I think we all are throughout our life,
Yeah.
have different ways of caring for ourselves. And for me, I love chocolate and like bubble baths and going to the beach and all that stuff. But really what I find I need is I need to be outside. I need to go for walks outdoors. I need to let the sun shine on me because we're inside so much. And I need to spend time with my family. That's very important to me. My girls are getting older now, and I find that they need me now, maybe more than they even did before.
Yeah.
And emotional and mental support for them. I need to spend time with my husband. So we try to get away a couple times a year, just us, to kind of recharge and reset. And I'm finding that exercise is not something that I've really ever consistently done, but for the past almost 2 years, I've been exercising a couple times a week, and I have found that it is really helpful to me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, awesome. And so you mentioned your girls, and when I introduced you, I said you had twins, but I didn't realize you had 4
I have
girls.
4, yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. I so your 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 husband is spinning around with all this estrogen in the
Yes.
house.
There's a lot of strong women in my house, let's put it that way. It's a lot of strong opinions.
I get it.
Mhm.
What would you say if you could tell me in just one word what you see as the most essential quality of a nurse? What would that word be?
I think empathy.
Empathy. Okay.
Um, I think that in our career, there are patients that are going through the worst times in their life, and they don't always treat you with respect,
Yeah.
but you have to understand what they're going through and have empathy for them, even when they're not always kind
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
understand.
And sometimes, and you say that sometimes it is so very hard to be for the patient to be kind to you when very often the reason they're there came blindsided them in the first place.
Right. Yes.
And it's like so many things come to the forefront, and you can't even, you're trying to deal with the news that you just got, and you're trying to deal with your emotions, and you're trying to deal with all kinds of things. And hey, this person's right in front of you.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. Yeah,
so
one of my favorite things I do, it's like a challenge to myself, is you take that like difficult patient and you can convert them through the
yeah.
day, like, through your
Hmm.
shift, and
Hmm.
you kind of use humor or whatever that person needs, like figuring out what they need,
What they need.
giving that to them, and then trying to give them a better day.
Yeah, yeah. And I know we have all of this nursing process and all of that, but you just really stated the essence of what nursing is, figuring out what they need
Yeah.
and giving that to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What advice would you give to somebody who wants to be a nurse?
Well, I would say, first of all, think about why you want to go into nursing. Is it because you feel passionate about it, or is it because you've heard that you make a lot of money in nursing?
Yeah.
Because if you're going into it for money, it's really not what you need to be doing. You really have to have a passion for nursing and passion for caring for people to do your job and to do it well. And then I would also tell people to take care of themselves. If they feel like they're becoming burned out, to take a break, or lean into those self-care activities, or maybe even think about changing positions.
Mhm.
But nursing is something that people can do many different things. I mean, even just me, working bedside, working outpatient, working home health, doing
Mhm.
education, being a writer. My degree has taken me so many places, and there's so many other places even beyond what I've done
Good.
that
Mhm.
so many people do. So just to not give up on the career, even if it gets difficult, find your new niche, find out where you belong, because there's a place for
There
everybody.
is a place. There is a place. Absolutely, there is a place for every single one. And those nurses' skills translate into so many other things, really. So
Yes.
you can do anything you want to, anything at all you want to. So
Mhm.
your company, ICU Nurse Writes, what is your big vision for that?
Well, I have a personal and professional vision. So, professional, obviously, I want to bring information to people, factual information. I want to educate people about health conditions and things like that, either nursing students or just the general public. So, bringing knowledge out into the world is one of the big professional pushes behind why I started my business, because I feel passionate about that. But the personal vision I have for my business is to provide for my family in a way that I can have some work-life balance. So I can be home, I can be there for my kids when they need me and my husband. Um, but I'm not selling myself to somebody else. I'm working for me and I'm
Mhm.
doing things that bring me joy. And offering, again, that balance is so important to me.
Yeah, yeah. That is huge. That is huge. You talked about doing the stuff that brings you joy.
Yes.
And that is something that we really have to find because it can be found. Um,
Yes.
Doing the thing that brings you joy can be found. Yes.
Mhm.
Before we go, would you like to leave us with any last words?
Oh gosh. Um, I don't know. I think that just the overall message is just find something that brings you joy, like if you feel stuck right now, because I know you talk to a lot of nurses,
Mhm.
lot of nursing students, people in the health career. If you feel burned out or stressed or overwhelmed, like really lean into what your body needs right now, what your mind needs. And you're worth it. And you deserve it. So,
You're worth it.
yeah,
Yes.
we are giving people and we can't give when we don't take care of ourselves. So I think that is really difficult for nurses. Um, and so it's very
Yeah,
important.
yeah, yeah. We need to shift a little bit and put ourselves in the equation. We
Yes.
often leave ourselves out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shelby, thank you so very, very much for this conversation. I truly enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure.